Rebuild yourself alone, the Buddha way. There are moments in life when everything gets quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like something ended. Maybe people stopped calling. Maybe the relationship broke. Maybe the job fell apart. Maybe your plans didn't happen. Maybe the version of you that used to feel confident doesn't exist anymore. And suddenly, you are left alone. Not just physically alone, but emotionally alone. No one truly understands what you're carrying. And even when people try to help, it doesn't reach the place inside you where the pain lives. Most people fear this moment. They run from it. They fill the silence with noise. Social media, rebound relationships, addictions, constant entertainment, constant talking, constant scrolling. Because when the mind becomes still, you can hear yourself. And sometimes, you don't like what you hear. But Buddhism teaches something that changes everything. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Sometimes, life removes distractions so you can finally see clearly. The Buddha did not awaken surrounded by comfort or applause. He awakened alone, facing his mind, his fear, his cravings, his illusions. So if you're rebuilding alone right now, you're not cursed. You might be in the most important training season of your life. In this video, I'll share 5 Buddhist teachings that can guide you through rebuilding yourself alone, without bitterness, without desperation, without losing your heart. This is not about becoming perfect. This is not about pretending you're okay. This is about slowly, quietly, powerfully rebuilding a life that doesn't collapse when people leave. Let's begin. First key point to rebuild yourself is the acceptance aloneness without resistance. In rebuilding yourself alone is not confidence. It's not motivation. It's not even positivity. Buddhism starts with the truth of dukkha, that life contains dissatisfaction, pain, and instability, not as pessimism, as clarity. Because when you stop arguing with reality, you stop bleeding extra pain. Here's the key idea. Loneliness is not only the absence of people. Loneliness is often the presence of resistance. Your mind says, this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be alone. I shouldn't feel this. I should be further in life. I should be loved by now. I should be okay. And that word, should, becomes a second suffering on top of the first. In Buddhism, suffering grows when we cling to how we think life must be, instead of meeting life as it is. So when you're rebuilding alone, your first practice is simple. Stop fighting the season you're in. Not because it's easy. Not because it's fair. But because resistance traps you in place. Think about a storm at sea. If you fight the ocean, you lose energy fast. But if you learn to float, you survive. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is wisdom. It means you stop wasting energy pretending the present shouldn't exist. When you accept aloneness, something surprising happens. You start discovering who you are without performance. When people are around, we often shapeshift. We become what they expect. We become what gets approval. We become what avoids conflict. But alone, you can't fake it. Alone, you meet your real mind. And yes, at first, it might be uncomfortable. You may notice how much you depend on validation, how much you fear silence, how much you chase comfort, how many thoughts are not even yours but borrowed from society. Buddhism teaches that awareness itself is healing. You don't heal by running. You heal by seeing. So don't treat aloneness as a prison. Treat it as a meditation retreat life forced you into. Start practicing small moments of stillness. Sit quietly for 2 minutes. No music, no phone. Just breathe. Your mind will scream at first. It will bring up old regrets, old fears, old conversations. That's normal, because the mind is like a room you never cleaned. When you finally turn on the light, you see the mess. But here's the truth. The mess was already there. You're just finally seeing it. And seeing is the beginning of rebuilding. So when loneliness hits, try this. Instead of, "Why am I alone?" ask, "What is this silence trying to show me?" Instead of, "I need someone," ask, "What part of me needs my attention?" Instead of, "This is unbearable," ask, "Can I stay present for 10 seconds?" Buddhism isn't about dramatic transformation. It's about being present for what's true. And if you can accept your aloneness without hatred, you've already started rebuilding. 2. Next and biggest move on this journey is let go of attachments to who you are. When people rebuild, they often think they're rebuilding the future. But most of the time, what they're really doing is fighting the past. They are still attached to an old identity. I used to be happier. I used to have friends. I used to be confident. I used to have a plan. I used to be someone. Buddhism teaches that attachment causes suffering. And many people misunderstand this. They think attachment only means relationships or money. But one of the deepest attachments is this: attachment to the story of who you think you are. You suffer not only because life changed. You suffer because you keep trying to drag an old version of yourself into a new chapter. But the Buddha taught impermanence. Everything that arises will pass. Everything that forms will dissolve. Everything you cling to will change. This can sound scary until you realize it's also freedom. Because if your pain can arise, it can pass. If your life can collapse, it can rebuild. But first, you must let the old identity die. This is the part most people avoid. They try to move on without grieving. They try to act strong without admitting loss. But rebuilding alone requires honesty. You may need to mourn the version of you that didn't make it. The version that trusted too easily. The version that tried to save everyone. The version that sacrificed too much. The version that stayed too long. The version that chased approval. Let it go. Not with anger, with understanding. Buddhism teaches anatta, non-self. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means your identity is not fixed. You are not a statue. You are a process. You are thoughts, emotions, memories, habits, choices, constantly changing like waves. And that means you can rebuild. But you can't rebuild while clinging to what you were. Here's a simple way to see this. If you drop a glass and it breaks, you don't sit there saying, "Why can't it be unbroken again?" You accept the truth. It broke. Then you clean the pieces. You learn. You move forward. In the same way, something in your life broke. A relationship, a dream, an expectation, your sense of certainty. It broke. And rebuilding begins when you stop trying to time travel. So practice this Buddhist mindset. Instead of asking, "How do I get my old life back?" ask, "What kind of life wants to be built from here?" Instead of clinging to old status, old friends, old labels, ask, "What parts of me were never real, only performed?" Because sometimes, what you miss is not who you were. You miss the comfort of familiarity, even if that familiarity was slowly killing you. Buddhism teaches, letting go is not losing. Letting go is releasing the burden of carrying what no longer fits. So if you're rebuilding alone, repeat this quietly. I am allowed to change. I am allowed to outgrow the past. I am allowed to become someone new. And the moment you allow that, you stop rebuilding an image. You start rebuilding a life. Let's move to third chapter. Train your mind. Pain is real, but stories are optional. When you're alone, the loudest voice becomes your mind. And if your mind is undisciplined, it becomes your enemy. It replays the past like a movie you didn't ask to watch. It imagines the future like a horror story. It creates a constant narration. They don't care. You're behind. You're not enough. Nothing will work. You'll end up alone forever. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a wild animal. If you don't train it, it will drag you anywhere. So rebuilding alone requires mental training. Not positive thinking. Not fake affirmations. Real training. Here's a Buddhist truth. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is the event. Suffering is the story you attach to it. For example, pain, someone left. Suffering, I'm unlovable and always will be. Pain, you failed. Suffering, my life is over. Pain, you're alone today. Suffering, I will be alone forever. The Buddha taught that our suffering comes from clinging, aversion, and ignorance. Clinging, I need things to stay. Aversion, I need this to stop. Ignorance, I believe every thought I have. So how do you rebuild? You learn to observe thoughts without obeying them. This is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not a trend. It is a survival skill. Try this simple practice. When a thought appears, don't fight it. Don't follow it. Just label it. This is fear. This is regret. This is craving. This is comparison. This is self-hate. The moment you label, you create distance. And distance creates freedom. You start seeing thoughts as weather, not as truth. A storm can pass through the sky without becoming the sky. In the same way, dark thoughts can pass through your mind without becoming you. This is rebuilding. Because a rebuilt person is not someone who never feels pain. A rebuilt person is someone who doesn't let pain control their choices. So when your mind attacks you, respond like a Buddhist warrior. Not with violence, with clarity. You can say, "Thank you, mind. I see you, but I'm not following this story today." Then return to breath. Return to the body. Return to the present. Because the present is always workable. Even if the present is uncomfortable, it is real. The future is imagination. The past is memory. But the present is the only place where rebuilding can happen. This is why Buddhist practice is so powerful when you're alone. It teaches you how to become your own refuge. Not by controlling life, but by training perception. And slowly, the mind becomes quiet enough for you to hear something deeper. Your intuition, your values, your inner strength. 4. Right effort. Rebuild through small daily practice. Now that you've accepted the season, released old identity, and started training the mind, it's time for the most practical part. Daily rebuilding. Buddhism is not only philosophy, it is practice. And one of the Buddha's most useful teachings is the Eightfold Path, especially right effort. Right effort doesn't mean maximum effort. It means balanced effort, not forcing, not neglecting. Because many people rebuilding alone fall into two extremes. 1. They punish themselves with intense discipline for a week, then crash. 2. They avoid effort completely, waiting for motivation that never comes. Right effort is the middle way. It's consistent. It's gentle. It's steady. So here's how you rebuild alone. Not by changing everything overnight, but by stacking small wins every day. Think of rebuilding like creating a new identity brick by brick. Here are daily practices you can use. Practice 1. Morning stillness. Before the phone. Before the world. Sit for 3 to 10 minutes. Breathe slowly. If thoughts come, observe. Return. This trains your mind to lead, not follow. Practice 2. 1. Clean action. Choose one thing each day that you do with full attention. Wash a cup. Make your bed. Clean your room. Not because it's magical, but because mindfulness turns small actions into stability. A messy room often mirrors a messy mind. Order outside can support order inside. Practice 3. Physical movement. Buddhism doesn't separate mind and body. When the body is neglected, the mind becomes heavier. Walk. Stretch. Lift something. Do anything. Move with awareness. Practice 4. Right speech inward. Notice how you talk to yourself. Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? If not, that's not honesty. That's cruelty. Buddhism teaches compassion also toward yourself. Try replacing inner attack with inner guidance. Instead of, "I'm pathetic," say, "I'm hurting and I'm learning." Instead of, "I'll never recover," say, "This is a hard season, but it's not permanent." You are rebuilding a relationship with yourself. Practice 5. Reduce craving inputs. When you're alone, cravings get louder. You crave attention, comfort, escape. So you scroll, snack, binge, chase, numb. But Buddhism teaches that cravings are like fire. Feeding them makes them stronger. So reduce what triggers craving. Less social comparison. Less late-night doom scrolling. Less toxic music or content that fuels anger or lust or insecurity. Not because pleasure is bad, but because rebuilding requires clarity. Practice 6. 1 courageous step daily. Rebuilding means action. Send the message you've been avoiding. Apply for the job. Learn the skill. Fix the mistake. Apologize. Leave the toxic habit. 1 step, not 10. 1. The Buddha's path is walked 1 step at a time. So if you're rebuilding alone, remember, your life changes through daily practice, not dramatic moods. Even when you don't feel motivated, practice. Even when you feel tired, practice. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're showing yourself, I can be trusted. And trusting yourself is the foundation of strength. 5. Compassion plus wisdom. Become whole before you seek connection. One of the deepest pains of rebuilding alone is this. You miss being seen. You miss being held. You miss being loved. And that desire is human. But Buddhism teaches something important. If you rebuild from desperation, you rebuild a fragile life. If you seek connection as a rescue, you'll attach quickly and suffer deeply. So the final teaching is this. Become whole before you seek someone to complete you. This doesn't mean you never love again. It doesn't mean you isolate forever. It means you don't hand your peace to someone else's behavior. The Buddha said, "Be a lamp unto yourself," meaning, let your inner awareness be your guiding light. Because when you depend on others to feel okay, you become vulnerable to their inconsistency. They text, "You're happy." They don't, you collapse. That is not love. That is addiction. So rebuild your inner foundation first. And the foundation is compassion. Compassion means you stop treating yourself as an enemy. You stop punishing yourself for being human. You stop calling yourself broken and start calling yourself learning. Then wisdom arrives. You start choosing people based on values, not loneliness. You start saying no to what drains you. You stop begging for attention and start protecting your time. When you become whole, relationships improve. Because you're no longer asking someone to save you. You're sharing life. This is the difference between need and love. Need says, "Don't leave me." Love says, "I want you, but I can stand without you." This is inner freedom. And ironically, this is when the right connections show up. Because strong, healthy people are drawn to calm strength, not desperation. So if you're alone right now, don't rush to escape it. Use it. Become the kind of person you'd feel safe being with. Become the kind of person you respect. Because when you rebuild yourself alone, you don't just survive. You become unshakable. We have come to the end. So let's summarize the path. 1. Accept aloneness without resistance. 2. Let go of attachment to who you were. 3. Train your mind. Pain is real. Stories are optional. 4. Use right effort. Small daily practice rebuilds you. 5. Become whole. Compassion and wisdom before connection. If you're rebuilding alone, listen carefully. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in a season most people avoid, but the season that creates the strongest foundation. The Buddha did not become free by running from discomfort. He became free by meeting it fully, breath by breath. So don't rush. Don't compare. Don't beg life to go back. Rebuild here. In this day. In this breath. In this moment. And one day you'll look back and realize, being alone didn't destroy you. It revealed you. If this video helped you, like it so it reaches someone else rebuilding in silence. Subscribe for more Buddhism-based life teachings, mindfulness, and mental strength. And comment one word below that describes where you are right now. Starting, healing, learning, or rebuilding. Keep going. You don't need to be saved. You need to be steady.